Welcome, everybody. We are in storytelling mode. I'm here with Roger Persaud, and we're co-creating this for you because I visited with Roger, meeting him at the No More 9 to 5 Club. So, a shout out to all of our friends out there in the club. And this is a mantra that Roger does that he's introduced to me, and I've been learning more about. And I'm going to learn more right along with you. And this is history that unites. And it's very powerful because we all know that it's an adage in life about how we can learn from history. And history can help us shape and make better decisions for today and tomorrow and ongoing. So, Roger's got, as with any story, there's a moral to it. There's something that's being demonstrated through these stories. Roger kind of gave me a quick little illusion to what we're doing today. So, Roger, tell us first, a little bit of how you got inspired to do this. Because obviously you're aware of this history, but something happened that you decided that instead of you just knowing about this history, you decided to share it with folks like myself and everybody watching and listening to this video. Why did you get into this mode of storytelling? What inspired you?
Well, Kirk, my whole life I've been designed for this. 8.5 years in the Air Force, 30 years in the airline business gave me a magnificent view of this amazing world that we are so blessed to inhabit. And I played a couple of strange sports. I played ping pong and cricket, and I traveled all over the world. And I made meaningful connections with people on all 7 continents. And these relationships have been ongoing for over 40 years. But I also saw lots of division. And it didn't make sense. How could we be so advanced, yet so divided? But I'm also an aircraft engineer. And in aircraft engineering, we employ root cause analysis to chronic issues, not just to fix them, but to see if we can't prevent recurrence. And when I applied root cause analysis to history, I quickly realized that history is designed to divide. So I decided to set out, do the research, and find the people, places, and events omitted from history, highlight them to see if I can't replace ignorance with curiosity, diminish unconscious bias, and create an environment where talent and character will be more important than what you look like. And I've written a book. My book is called America Should Be Grateful to Haiti, but that's misleading because it's not about Haiti. It's a collection of historically overlooked narratives. Today, Kurt, I'd like to talk about the UK and how the UK built its wealth. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I think in this day and age, April 2026, we're looking at a lot of economic issues, and there's a lot of wonderment, about like with cryptocurrency and whatever. Everybody's thinking about the economic future for themselves and, countries and, in time of war, what's going to come of it economically to make sure people get what they need. So yeah, your story about the UK and how the UK built its wealth. I don't know the story, so maybe some folks out there do know the story and would enjoy your rendition. But yeah, let's get into it, Roger. Sounds like a great
Okay,
offering. I'm
let's
ready.
start with the term that used to be common, and the term is the sun don't set on the British Empire. Now take that term in for a minute. The sun does not set on the British Empire, which means wherever you go, as long as the sun is shining, it's shining on the British Empire. Now, how did they do this? Well, they had something called the East India Company, which in the 1600s was designed to go out and conquer Asia, East India. And they took over the governments. What they did was they got involved with the big Maharajas and all the leaders in India. And this was where the powerful ruled the not so powerful. And they made alliances with all these people. They converted the system. The government was transformed. The education system was transformed. The official language of India was transformed. And they ran India. Now, here's a number. In the 1600s, India had a 20% share of the world's global GDP. 20%. By the time England was done with them and left in 1947, they were down to under 5%, and India was a starving country. The, the, now, the thing is, the East India Company, they had an army twice the size of the British Army. And they ruled India. Everything they did was for the benefit of England, not for the benefit of the United States of India. And they built railroads, they built systems, they built a whole ton of stuff. They fought a war in 1857. It's the Battle of Plassey, and the British took over from the East India Company and started running India by themselves until partition in 1947. Now, England was also running slave establishments all over the Caribbean. And that's why I like to bring this story up, because we want to look at one guy. We want to look at John Gladstone. John Gladstone was a director of the East India Company and also a director of the West Indian Planters Association. So after slavery was abolished in 1834 by the British paid reparations, not to the slaves, but to the slave owners. And John Gladstone got the most money because he owned the largest plantations in Jamaica and British Guyana, where I was born. Now, I have Indian origins. How did Indians end up in Guyana, Jamaica, and Trinidad? Because when slavery was abolished and John Gladstone lost his labor force in Jamaica and the Caribbean, he decided to ship out hundreds of thousands of Indians to replace the African slaves that could no longer be used. So this guy controlling two major world organizations actually transported hundreds of thousands of Indians to Jamaica and Trinidad and Guyana to run his plantations. Now, how significant is this? Listen to how significant this is. His son, William Ewart Gladstone, was Prime Minister of England 4 times. 4 times. And there's another role that he had, Chancellor of the Exchequer. Chancellor of the Exchequer is like Secretary of Treasury and Secretary of Commerce rolled into one. He was also Chancellor of the Exchequer for 4 terms. This is the power to John Gladstone. Now, William Ewart Gladstone, there's a statue to him in front of the House of Commons. And another part of that, another segue into that story, in the middle there, they broke off and fought a war in China to sell opium in China. They fought 2 wars because the Chinese found the opium supplies and dumped them. And then they went back and forced the Chinese to accept opium. Then they went back and made the Chinese legalize opium. That's where they got the Treaty of Nanking and where England became the owners of the island of Hong Kong. So that is a legacy in history. You could study British history and never learn any of that. They'll tell you about the Magna Carta, about Bury St. Edmunds, and about the 100-Year War, but they won't mention the East India Company or the West Indian Federations, 2 organizations that were foundational to how the UK built its wealth.
Yeah, so your whole point is that, when you see something impressive like a country, building its wealth, it's built, what I'm hearing is essentially it's built on the backs of other people, the slaves and the Indians and stuff like that. So when we tell these stories, and okay, now we're aware of how UK built its wealth, and it's a story that, isn't traditionally told. But what motive, like, how did this come to be for you? Like what got you in front of this story? And then I want to capture like the first time around where you're like, wow, this is something that people need to know because you were amazed to learn it yourself the first time. How did that happen?
Well, one of my, well, I should say, my superpower is growing up poor. Growing up poor in a foreign country before TV, we never had TV. I never saw a TV set till I was 19 years old in New York City. I grew up in Guyana, so I had to read everything, and I read a lot. I had a tremendous access to books, and I read as much as I could. And I read a lot about history and literature, and I knew a lot. And I was coming to the United States and studying with people who were bright people, brilliant people. Americans are brilliant people, fantastic people, but their lack of world knowledge is staggering. And I think that that's my goal. My role and my goal is to improve Americans' perspective on the rest of the world. We're an amazing country, and we're a country built by immigrants from all over the world. But we don't know enough about the rest of the world. And I'd like to change that. I'd like for us to know. We don't even know enough about American history because, as I said, history is designed to divide. And if it's designed to make somebody look good and make somebody look bad, it's not the truth. Another thing, Kurt, I worked in the airline industry for too long, over 3 decades. And it's a very diverse industry in several ways. And in my last 10 years, I was a director of training. So I had to do a lot with DEI. I had to hire DEI trainers, bring them in, listen to them, and listen to what they were saying, and organize trainings among different groups. And what I realized as I listened to these things, DEI needed more truth. It's great training. DEI is needed, but it could be really helped if truth, more truth, was introduced to DEI training. DEI training without truth doesn't really land. It doesn't have the impact that it could.
Yeah, it seems like we're going through a time of rebirthing. Like DEI has been put to the background as DEI, but it seems like diversity training, lives on. So it seems like it's, going through a reboot, and, figuring out how we can, kind of have this out in the workplaces and, in the workforce and in the companies and in our culture and have it be something that's more sustainable. And to your point, have what's being done, what's being experienced rooted in truth more. And I know the point of going through these historical stories for you is the value in the present. So
Yes.
so it's history
Yes.
that unites, which means right now as we're enjoying
Yes.
this conversation, so can you talk more to that because when you say that I know in other circles it gets me thinking like we're a planet with over 8 billion people on it. So, and you said that when you're listening to a story where a person or other people are held in higher regard than other people, and you're creating this division because of socioeconomic status or the value of their contribution is held in a different limelight, that it seems like what you're driving at is the force of unity is when we're all equally yoked. All 8
Yes.
billion of us on the
Yes.
planet have
You
an
know,
equal chance to drive what will be tomorrow.
yes. And it's very interesting because right now we're in the middle of a moon flight, right? We're in the middle of Artemis going to the moon and on its way back. In 1969, we landed on the moon. In 1971, the astronaut Ed Mitchell made this statement. I hope I get this quote correct. He said, when you look at the world, you become amazed. And I'd like to grab because what he said is international conflicts look petty. I'd like to grab a politician by the scruff of the neck and drag him 250 miles away from Earth and said, "Look at that thing, you son of a bitch." The thing is, the point is, Kurt, we are all here going through the same crap. We're all the same. Our buddy Robert Butwin, and I'll always quote Robert Butwin because he said you go from the B day to the B day, from your box, from your birth to your box. And there's a line in the middle. What you write on that line is what's important. We're all going through the same thing. Nobody's better than anybody. We are much more similar than we are different. Talk to the doctors. There is no biological basis for race. Our skin tone and our hair texture is caused by our distance from the sun. That is it. Let's get over this stupidity. Whether you're a Christian and you believe in creation, or you're an atheist and you believe in evolution, we come from one source. That's the bottom line, folks. Let's get to it. Let's stop this nonsense. Get busy living and loving each other and stop the stupid conflicts because they make no sense. They will always be there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, again, with what I do in other circles, I bring into conversations that if you look at the population of the planet and look at today's present conflict and the history of conflicts, that there's really about a circle of 100 people that really drive the element of war and declaring it. And then through this, you know, um, you know, through this complicity, we comply and we say, "Oh, they're saying we're at war, so I guess we got to get the troops up and start the barrage of killing, and so forth." Whereas we really harness that as 8 billion people on the planet, we can really extinguish the hostilities and, really create a reckoning, like you said, with the politicians, take them, take them like you would a kid, drag them into the mess that they created, and to look at it differently and really speak more for the business of the entire population of the planet
Yes.
rather than these little isolated echo chamber bubble things like we didn't get our way on this particular thing, or like you said, how the UK built its wealth. It's the old thing, follow the money, and you'll learn why we're releasing the troops. It's fighting over that monetary future. And so that's really you know, the structure of unity needs to be that there are what I call unbiased pathways,
Yep.
because that divisiveness, like the way the stories are told with a bias, people attach themselves to that bias, that extreme look, that deviation from truth, and that's where it all gets driven, is because people kind of take different false confirmations of that rendition of a story,
Right.
a narrative,
Right.
propaganda, whatever it is,
Right.
and then we enter into this whole line of disservice. But then massive populations hop on board with it.
Yep. Yep.
That's the mob mentality and the risk of influence. So part of devising a stable and sustainable unity is to make sure that the populace, drives the perspective,
Yep.
from the entirety. Because, you know, the, the story of like Paul Revere in the U.S. history, the story goes is there was another gentleman that was a part of doing everything every bit as much as Paul Revere, but it just happened to be that his rendition is what came out forward, and what we all learn in the history books. And that other dude, it's like nobody even knows his name,
Yep.
just because
Yep.
of
Yeah.
how the story it's
How the story
propagated,
is
and
told.
then
Yeah.
what they don't tell you. To your
Yeah.
point, it's the things that. that don't get shared and told that creates a perversion of the truth, which is a disservice.
Yep. Like Paul Harvey used to say, now you know the rest of the story.
That is the important part, filling the gaps so that it's that's why we say in court, the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Yes,
So
sir.
help me God.
Yes, sir. Hey, Kurt, this was great, man. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Yep. Just really quick, I have in my background Haitian Orphans Wish. Can you just share before we cut off here and have people wondering what that's about? Can you explain why that is your charity of choice and
That is an
what's going on?
organization. That's an organization founded by some friends of mine in New York City and Long Island. And it runs a school in Haiti that provides educational and vocational education to orphans in Haiti. And there are a lot of orphans in Haiti, a few of them caused by the UN, when UN people, but they help young Haitians, the young orphan Haitians, make it through life with education and vocational education. And that's my favorite charity. It's founded by some friends of mine in Long Island, New York.
Fantastic. Thanks, Roger. Yeah, I look forward to continuing this work with you and seeing what I can do to add some more energy and attention to Haitian Orphans Wish. Sounds like a great worthy cause, and I learned about it through you. So I'm happy to be a part of sharing it out there and get more attention to charity. And if I understand what we're doing correctly, Roger, I believe you're intending that about twice a month, you're going to be coming on and giving another episode of stories, and we're going to keep unpacking this. And you're even looking at having some guests come in the future, correct?
Yes, yes. I'm going to try to get some guests. I was trying to get a couple of them, but I didn't contact them early enough. And these busy entrepreneurs, I didn't get a positive response. But we're going to fix that the next time.
Yeah, but this worked really good. This became a reveal, a debut, and getting this video series kicked off. And then now you can even include this as you invite their other friends to come on. They can see a little bit about what you and I have in mind and, kind of the line of stories you're telling and start to create how they fit in to this ongoing storytelling. And it'll be interesting to hear their stories and their perspective, such like that. And you also sent me an email about a freebie. So, as we keep working on this, we're going to be putting that link. So, as following the series, Roger has a freebie for you guys out there to consider, and we'll be covering that in the text part, in the descriptions and the comments. And also, you can be in touch with us with Roger and I doing the show. We can help you get that freebie. So, we'll be continuing to explain that as we do our next set of shows. So, does that wrap it up, Roger? Are we ready to bid farewell?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I really appreciated this and really enjoyed it.
Yep,
You're a great host, Kurt.
thanks, Roger. Yeah, and I love your storytelling. I'm learning from you every week we do this. So thanks for doing your part, and we'll keep butting up. We'll be a new dynamic duo in storytelling and distributing these stories. So looking forward to where this goes. We're off to a trajectory, and as they say in the business, we got one in the can. Thanks for doing it, Roger. Bye, everybody. Tune in
Bye,
a couple
everybody.
weeks. We'll
Thank
have
you.
another one for you.
All right.